Welcome. We're going to get started in just a minute as we give folks a few more moments to join. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shannon Serrato. I'm the Director of Engagement here at Cradle-to-Career, and it's so lovely to be with you all during this lunchtime hour. We have a full session today on the C2C 2024 Advisory Board selection process. But before we get into the heart of today's discussion, I want to go over a bit of housekeeping. So this meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the Cradle-to-Career YouTube page, as well as posted to the Cradle-to-Career website under meetings, as well as on the community conversation page in the coming days. Today's session is being closed caption enabled. So to turn on the captions, you can click the three dots at the far right bottom of your screen and select captions. You can also select your preferred language by launching the CC button at the bottom of your screen. We are also glad to once again have Spanish interpretation services offered for today's session, with a big thank you to Mark Gutierrez for joining us this afternoon. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark for a few instructions on how to enable interpretation for today's session.
Thank you, Shannon. Will do. Muy buenas tardes a todos que nos acompañan en español. Queremos dejarles saber que tenemos interpretación a vivo disponible. Para escuchar el programa en su idioma, en breve aparecerá un icono de un globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla que dice Interpretation o interpretación. Selecciónelo y de ahí seleccione su idioma Spanish o español y podrá escuchar todo el programa en su idioma. And just a note for those listening in English, if there happens to be a comment or question given in Spanish, you can also listen to a live interpretation of it. In a moment, you'll see the globe icon appear at the bottom of your screen. Select it and then select your language, English, and you'll be able to hear a live rendering of that comment. Thank you, Shannon. Back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. Okay, so with that, while participants are muted for today's meeting, you can ask any questions that you may have in the chat or during the Q&A at the tail end of today's session. And on that note, I want to highlight that we'll be utilizing the community guidelines that we created with you all to guide today's meeting. We want to foster a brave and respectful shared space, and we thank you for your commitment to creating community with us today. So we're going to learn a little bit about each other. About Cradle-to-Career. The California Cradle-to-Career data system was named in state legislation to be California's source of actionable data and research on education, economic, and health outcomes for individuals, families, and communities. C2C has been envisioned to be the most inclusive data system of its kind in the nation, and we deploy a three-pronged approach of community engagement to inform the development, interpretation, and awareness building about the data system. We're scaling tools to support college planning and transition, and we're building an analytical data set on education and job outcomes. And for more information on that, we have a handy one-pager available at C2C at bit.ly/C2C-1_pager. The dash and the underscore are critical to finding this one-pager, so I encourage you to check that out. Okay, and so now we want to hear from you all. We want to know who we are in the virtual room with today. So in just a few minutes, I'm going to be asking you all to share some information in the chat so that we get to learn about each other. So first, please share your name and organization and where you're joining from today. Thank you, Linda. I see your note. Thank you for that. All right. Responses are coming in. We've got Molly Maloney with Geo Public Schools in Richmond. Darrell Jones, Blue Education Foundation of San Bernardino, Isa Shavada, Temecula, John Watson, San Diego County Office of Education, Gabby Bradley, Los Angeles. We've got a lot of folks. Very exciting. Ashley Ferris, Mission College, Santa Clara. Shireen Sasser, Pittsburgh, USD and the Bay Area. Renee De Los Santos in Santa Monica. Paul Tuss with CSU, Sacramento. We've got Joseph Knapp with Solano County Office of Education. Awesome. We've got a lot of county offices of education today. Very, very exciting. Harpreet Upal with North Orange Continuing Education in Fullerton. All right, awesome. We've got a lot of people joining us from all over the state. This is very, very exciting. Thank you for joining us today. Next, we want to know, is this your first community conversation? And if not, how many have you joined? Or maybe it's too many to count and you've lost track. But if so, what are you looking forward to most today? And I'm going to go back while I'm looking at this chat. Thank you, Erica, for joining us in LA. Habiba Child Care Systems Coordination and Improvement Support Office. That's quite the title. Jimmy Long, the CSU. Second community conversation. Thank you. Novar Lee, San Bernardino. Thank you for joining us. This is Shireen says this is her third or their third. Gabriella Bradley, first time. Well, thank you for joining. Harpreet, also first time. Jennifer, also first time. So thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Amber, SDSU School of Public Affairs, tuning in from San Marcos. Ashley says it's their first time. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you all for joining us. And finally, one for fun. The sun is shining. Rain has subsided. The flowers are blooming. What are we excited about now that spring has sprung? What's an event or something that goes on in your region or community that you are looking forward to? As I give folks a minute to think about this, I will just share that I live in Oakland, California, so it's so nice to see all the Bay Area folks in attendance today. I live just outside of Lake Merritt, and so now that the temperatures are rising, it's just nice to be out by the lake. People are running races and selling things and just kids running around and kites flying. And it's just nice to be in community with my neighbors. So I'm very much looking forward to the summer here in beautiful Oakland. All right, now I'm going to go to the chat. Erica says, swimming or beaching. Paul Tuss, super blooms. I'm jealous. I want to see a super bloom. I've not yet seen one. Summer break. We've heard from Darrell or Daryl. Hikes and live music. Gabriella, Fiesta, Hermosa Beach, awesome. John Watson, water temperature warming, Pacific Ocean, that is, yes. Clarifying. Carolyn, all things beach and family related. And Amber says snorkeling and leopard sharks in La Jolla Shores and hiking. La Jolla Shores are beautiful. I am living vicariously through you all, and I hope that you all get to do all these fun things. Thank you again. So we've got a busy day, so we're going to get started on our today's session. I want to give you a quick overview of what we've got going on. We will be providing a couple of updates on C2C in the coming seconds, and then we're going to get into the heart of the session on the application or advisory board selection process, and we're going to provide plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So I encourage you all to drop your questions into the chat again, or you could ask them during the Q&A. And then finally, we'll have a little moment to close with each other before we go on through the rest of our Tuesday. But with that, I'm going to turn to our updates. So it has been a busy time for C2C. We've only been in virtual community. It's been less than a month, I think, since we've last spoke, but we've made a lot of progress here at C2C that I'm really excited to share with you all. So just last week at C2C's governing board meeting, governing board members approved adding the Department of Developmental Services, DDS, as a new data partner. And this is huge for us. This is the first time that C2C has added a data provider since our inception. So really, really exciting. And DDS's information will provide key insights into the lives of Californians living with a developmental disability. The vote from the governing board reaffirms the state's commitment to providing holistic and equitable solutions for all Californians, no matter their ability, socioeconomic background, or status. And we've shared the news as a joint email campaign, as well as a social media announcement. Shout out to Angelique Palomar, who led that effort with DDS and Cal HHS last week. At our last community conversation, I shared that C2C is hiring in the data infrastructure vertical, and I am super pleased to share that we have that Krishna Bichagunta has joined us as our Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO, our first official one for C2C. Krishna has over 20 years of professional experience in security and privacy, and we are just really glad to have his depth and expertise on the team. I also want to remind folks that this year the public can submit proposals for consideration from either C2C's data and tools or community engagement advisory boards. We provided an in-depth overview of the public proposal process at last month's community conversation. And so for more information, you can visit the community conversations page at c2c.ca.gov/ways to get involved/community conversations to access that. Also available on C2C's YouTube page. And finally, and I am really excited about this one, and I think you may all be excited too, I am pleased to share that we are making excellent progress on our data visualizations for our data dashboard. So on the screen, you will see a teaser for one of the data visualizations for C2C's Student Pathways dashboard launching later this year. We will soon be seeking input from the public on the visualizations, and this summer we will have a dedicated community conversation to C2C's dashboard prototypes. But in advance of that, we'll be reaching out to key stakeholders, including you all, for your thoughts and feedback on the new data visualizations. We'll be sharing and collecting information via the C2C website. So I encourage you all to sign up for email updates if you haven't yet done so, to make sure that you're on the list to receive that invitation. And so with that, I am going to hand it over to C2C's Chief of Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships, Mary Kate Cruz-Jones, to kick off today's session on the advisory board selection process. Over to you, Mary Kate.
Thanks so much. So great. Thanks, Shannon. My name is Mary Kate Cruz-Jones. And Shannon just said my title, which is Chief of Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships. So what I'm going to walk through today is just kind of going over our two advisory boards. That's what's displayed on this slide, as well as the application process. The applications are now live on the website, so we'll walk through some of that. And then something else I'd like to do is just kind of talk through important dates related to the timeline. So we'll start with our two advisory boards, as I just mentioned. So we have data and tools, that's one, and community engagement, that's another one. So data and tools, their focus is to examine whether the data system is providing actionable information and identifying ways to improve access to that information. And for community engagement, what their focus is on examining whether the managing entity is creating strong feedback loops with data users, supporting evidence-based decision-making and analytical capacity, and ensuring equitable access to actionable information. So Shannon, a few moments ago, just mentioned this proposal process that we have going on. And you'll notice in the two sets of proposals, they really root in the overview or the authority of either one of our advisory boards. So data and tools is more focused on the data and the tools, and community engagement is more focused on, community engagement and that community engagement framework. So just kind of grounding their work there. Folks can feel free to apply to either one of our advisory boards, but you may feel like your background, story, or expertise is more aligned with one of these two, since they do different things. But maybe you're fabulous. Not that you wouldn't be if you could only apply for one, but some people have overlap in both areas. Okay, so my next slide here, we're going to take a look at Data and Tools Advisory Board first. So this is a snapshot of the vacancy analysis. Both advisory boards, I should say this, it consists of 16 public members. And each year we have folks that are falling off of the advisory boards. They're currently can seat folks from advocacy organizations, community organizations, practitioners, research organizations, student family members. And you can see in 2024 who's falling off. So we're going to lose one member that represents an advocacy organization. We're going to lose two folks that represent community organizations, and we're going to lose two folks that represent practitioner organizations. And then also noted on this slide, you can see 2025 and 2026, what those vacancies will look like. And so next year in 2025, when the governing board selection for advisory boards committee meets, they'll look toward, those vacancies. But we're just there's a lot of information here. We really want to focus on 2024 and what this year holds for us. So thank you for joining us. And we'll stay focused on this year. As I just mentioned, there is a committee. So that's a subset of the governing board. This committee consists of 5 governing board members. They met on April 12th, so almost a month ago. And the committee prioritized ideal populations for the slating of candidates. And I guess I can go back a step further and say, y'all, hopefully, any of the folks in this virtual room will be submitting applications. And then once we get all those applications, the committee will take a look at all the applications we received, and they'll slate or prioritize the candidates. Now in the April 12th meeting, obviously those applications weren't in. So the committee talked in theory about what slating could look like given, ideal populations, and based upon this vacancy analysis. The committee had mentioned dividing the 5 seats in this way. So continuing to have 1 seat for an advocacy organization, 1 seat for a community organization, 1 seat for a student, and 2 seats for practitioners, ideally having 1 practitioner that would represent the workforce. So again, we'll have to see what applications come in and what the committee ultimately decides, but that's what they had discussed on the 12th of April. The next slide here is a vacancy analysis of what I just talked about, but it's it visually depicts it in two charts. So what we have on the left is folks that are terming out, and what we have on the right is what the board composition, the Data and Tools Advisory Board composition, will look like given their departure. I know I just put out a lot of information there, so I'll just give us 1 second to kind of visually digest this. And what I'd like to take a look at now is the rubric, which is our next slide. So I just mentioned a little bit about this committee. Again, this committee of 5 governing board members, they're going to take a look at all the applications that we get in. And then they're going to prioritize the applications. And they're going to use this rubric. And this rubric is really important because that rubric is going to help them prioritize. So in the meeting, they approved this rubric and decided that this would be a tool in their toolbox. And it will work in conjunction with the application. So please note that the rubric highlights 4 main areas for criteria for selection. There's community affiliation, data sets, data alignment, and actionable experience. So when y'all are filling out the application, or I should say, if I were you and I was filling out the application, something that I think would be important that I would keep in mind is I would keep this rubric out, and this is available on our website, and I would reference it. And I would definitely keep it in mind as I was filling out the application. And then at the end, I would give my application one final read, and I would kind of audit my application to say, could I give myself 5 points in this area based upon the answers that I wrote? Okay, great. I gave myself 5 points for community affiliation, data sets, data alignment, actionable experience. Hopefully this is the best application that I could submit. But I really want to emphasize the importance of the rubric because this is what our members will score off of and do their prioritization off of. So the rubric is important. Keep this on hand. It's a handy resource for you. And there is a link that has just been posted in the chat, and that's where you can access it. We'll be going over the same information for community engagement momentarily here, but that's data and tools. And we'll take questions at the end. So don't forget, write it down if you need something for data and tools. Now taking a look at community engagement. So this is similarly the vacancy analysis for the community engagement board. You'll notice, again, it consists of 16 members. That can include advocacy organizations, community organizations, users that will use the data system, such as practitioners or students. And as you can see, there's a total of 4 vacancies this year. So Data and Tools has 5, community engagement has 4. This is also important for folks to remember because when the committee is going to slate, they're going to pick out 5 folks for Data and Tools, and they're going to pick out 4 folks for community engagement. So that's also just something to keep in mind, the number of vacancies that we have. They will select runners up in each category. So it could look like more than 5 and 4 folks, but I just kind of, want to set expectations as we're talking about them. So as you can see from the vacancy analysis from this year, we're going to lose 1 advocacy organization member, 2 community organization members, as well as 1 practitioner, making those 4 folks. You can also see here we have listed what 2025 and 2026 will look like. And as I just mentioned, the committee, when they were, prioritizing the ideal population, in their minds, what they had kind of come up with is dividing the 4 seats amongst 1 advocacy organization, 1 student, and then 2 community organizations. So that's how they thought how to divvy up these seats. The next slide again is that vacancy analysis that visually depicts the impacts. Again, on the left, folks terming out and what that looks like on the pie chart. And then on the right, this will be the makeup of the board composition, giving those impending vacancies. Again, letting it simmer. And now we're going to take a look at the community engagement rubric. So I'm going to highlight this again. I'm going to give you the same spiel, but for community engagement this time. The rubric is super important. This is what our members will use to look at as they're reviewing the applications. They'll have this in tandem as a part of how they'll do that prioritization. And the 4 main areas that the committee approved for this rubric are community affiliation, community ambassador or actionable experience, soliciting input and communicating needs and concerns, and student and educator tools. And again, you'll see the reason why we started this presentation with that overview is because each area and the rubric reflects this, looks at 2 different things, right? We have a data and tools advisory board that kind of opines in one area and community engagement in another. So just rooted in their missions. So again, if I were in the position to be applying, I would definitely have this rubric out. And then at the end of my application, as I'm just rereading my responses, ensuring that I feel confident in being able to give myself the full amount of points. So you're going to want to take a look at that last column that says 5 points. And it breaks it down, like what an ideal answer, get rewarded 5 points, would include this information. So just ensure that your application speaks to that, I think is the best advice that I could give you. And again, you have the link here to refer to it. So the next piece that I want to talk about is self-identification. And so there's a part of the application process. This is a part of the application process, and I kind of want to talk through it now and just kind of make it as clear to you all as possible. When applicants fill out the form, you're going to self-identify, and you're going to see this in question number 8. So there's a series of boxes. You'll notice that practitioner, student, things that are represented on this slide are those boxes that you can check. It's not all of them, but we capture a lot of them here. So as noted, applicants are able to select which communities y'all are affiliated with, and how you feel like you could bring value to the advisory board. So we really encourage you to select all boxes that apply. Don't feel like you can only select one. You can select more than one. And that's why it's a checkbox and not a please select one. So I just want to highlight that the instructions say this, and feel encouraged to not, box yourself in. Hopefully y'all find that very punny. To just one thing. Sorry, I thought I could contain my laughter. Apparently I can't. So, for example, if you work for an advocacy organization that has focused work in the northern region of California, and you're also a parent, you can check 3 boxes, right? So you could check parent family member, you could check advocacy organization, and then you could check northern region under regional focus. So I just wanted to provide that example. Again, I know there's very smart folks on the line, but this information is really important. There's a reason why we let you self-identify. And part of this process, and the reason why we give you so much space and it's open-ended, is because we want you to be able to amplify your own voice, your own experience, and let you bring that to the table. And that's what the committee is looking for, right? Statute says that we want to seat diverse boards. And so the best way that you can kind of market yourself is doing so in the application. So again, just feel free to let it all out in your application, or model it there in your application. That's a better way to say it. I let it all out sounds negative. Anyway, so I just want to be clear on that point. And then when all the applications come in, the office is going to provide materials to the committee to, again, prioritize the applications that came in. And I do want to share, and you'll, if you're going to come to our meeting, that's on the 27th of June, you'll be able to see folks will be organized based on the self-identification piece. So if you selected yourself as practitioner, you'll find yourself in the practitioner area. Same, with research or advocacy, community organization. That's how we'll distribute the applications that we get to provide some organization to the materials. So just previewing that thought for you in advance. Okay, so let's take a look at the application process itself. This slide provides a little bit of that overview. So the applications open on the 29th. So about yesterday, I think that's a week. Yes, only a week, although it feels like much longer. They were open for a week yesterday. And the applications will close on May. We're in the month of May 17th at 5 p.m. Please, please, please note that 5 p.m. deadline. If you get it in at 6 p.m., that is after the deadline. So please mark your calendars, May 17th at 5 p.m. Our applications, the forms are on the website. And so please feel free to start filling out your application today. Take as long as you need, up to May 17th at 5 p.m. Hopefully by me repeating that 3 times, it's ingrained in our memory. Okay, perfect. So when filling out the application, and I know I kind of voiced this over a little bit, but I just want to say, things to keep in mind. First, before turning it in, please ensure that the application is full and complete. Thinking back to the last slide, did you check all the boxes that apply to you? Again, on that question number 8, self-identification piece. And second, please use the space to share with the committee about your diverse background, right? Again, thinking about that rubric and the application of it, and really using this time and space to preview what you've done and showcase yourself, right? A lot of times we like to be humble, but this is not the space to do so. So feel free to, highlight yourself and showcase your work. And again, sharing that reminder, it's a good idea to take a look at that rubric for whichever advisory board you're applying to. And then last thought here, this was a lesson learned from folks last year. And if you're including links in your application, which totally kosher to do so, just double check that link. The worst thing could be is that you give us a broken link and then the committee can't access it, right? So just double check your work, double check your links, and make sure that it's all tied up with a neat little bow. So if you are considering applying, I'd like to draw your attention to the tentative dates for 2024 and 2025. This is something that is on the application itself. If you are to be seated as an advisory board member, there is an expectation that you do come to all of our meetings. And so there are tentative dates that are listed on this application. So there's going to be a virtual member orientation that will take place on August 30th, 2024. All members have to be trained before they can be seated on the advisory board. And so, you know, if you're a seated member, we look forward to you joining us. And then we also have in-person meetings that happen 3 times a year. These dates have not yet been voted on by the advisory boards, which is why we say tentative. But at this point, the office is thinking that the Data and Tools Advisory Board meetings will take place on, October 1st, 2024 is set in stone. But March 19th, 2025 and July 11th, 2025, hopefully those will be enacted in July of this year. But still all the same, mark your calendar because we want all of our members there. We definitely need a quorum in order to carry out the work of the board. For community engagement, those dates will look like, again, August 30th, 2024 for that member orientation, October 16th, 2024, that one is confirmed. And then March 26, 2025 as a tentative, and July 11, 2025, again as a tentative. Again, all of our meetings take place in Sacramento. They're in person, aside from that orientation, which is virtual. And as I said, it's a requirement for members to attend all meetings. So please take this seriously when you're considering applying. If you know that you can't make 2 or 3 of these dates, maybe this isn't your year. You know, feel free to still apply. But just know that if you were to be seated, these are the expectations set in front of you. And then, yes, it is also worth noting that our governance manual states that when you become a member, you also get to do other fun trainings with us and paperwork. So just front loading that thought that there is an administrative side of this, that we get to work together for all of our members that will be brought on. A last bit of information here just related to, you know, if you are applying, which hopefully you do. Last year, there were lots of folks that wanted their community to send in letters of support on their behalf. So there is a section of our website that's already live. If anybody wants to share this section of the website and have a former colleague or, you know, whomever write a letter on their behalf, you know, please feel free to do so. It can, I guess, again, be done via the website. And the deadline for this is on June 21st at 5 p.m. Again, there is a tight deadline on this. The office tries its very best to get everything up. And please, all letters that we receive will be posted on the website. They'll be live with our meeting materials. If letters are received after this time, they will not be, same with applications, they will not be considered by the committee or publicly posting, again, because we're being so explicit about that deadline. If there is a letter of support that's submitted on your behalf, I just ask, please, that you're a little bit patient with the office. Give us about 48 hours to process it. We get a lot of letters, and there's a lot of moving parts to this work. And so if you send it and it's not posted 5 minutes later, have no fear, it will be. If after 48 hours it isn't, feel free to reach out to us. And just other thoughts related to the process and the overview. Again, we're closing this application period on May 17th. In early June, members will get the applications and start their prioritization process. And that slating time that I've been talking to or referring to, that will happen publicly at the June 27th committee meeting. And that committee meeting is, you know, you can feel free to join us virtually. It's going to take place from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So coming into this meeting, there will be a resource live that will, you know, share what the slating will be going into the meeting, but members can always make different decisions. By the end of that meeting, hopefully members will make a final determination as to what those 5 and 4 seats will look like and who the runners up will be. So if I were applying, I would try and attend that meeting. Please note, though, that this is just slating. On on August 14th at our next governing board meeting, there will be an agenda item specific to this where the governing board will make the final decision. So I want to be clear about that. The committee can make a recommendation, but it's not final. The governing board will make that final decision on August 14th, and that's when appointments will be made, official and public. So should your name appear on that slated list, you could potentially be approved as a member on August 14th. So again, I'd tune in that day should I be a person submitting an application. Okay, enough from me. I will now hand it over to Angelique Palomar, who will take us through the next portion of this. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mary Kate, for that super helpful breakdown. Hi, all. My name is Angelique Palomar. I lead some of our communications work here at C2C. For this portion of the community conversation, I'll recap what we've been doing on the outreach front to get the word out about our applications and share how some of y'all can help spread the word in your local region and network. But before diving in, I want to emphasize the importance of the application landing page. So everything that Mary Kate had just elevated, it's hosted here. This is your main hub where you'll find the applications themselves in both English and Spanish. You can also find key dates, the very important dates that Mary Kate had pointed out, resources like the rubric to help you submit a strong application, and then a way for your letters of support to be submitted. So I know a link to this page was dropped in the chat earlier, but you can also access this from C2C's homepage by clicking on the Get Involved tab from the top menu. From there, select Ways to Get Involved, and then click Apply to an Advisory Board, and that'll take you to the link. All right, so now I'll cover what actions we've been taking to reach our state's communities. So one thing we consistently prioritize here at C2C is ensuring human-centered design, from our dashboards and tools to our messaging and our outreach. We're always thinking about you, our audiences, and the users. So that's especially true when we're thinking about seating a diverse board. We ask ourselves, do our boards represent Californians as a whole? How are the different communities and the interests of Californians represented? How are we ensuring that users' voices are heard and that they see their feedback reflected into our initiatives? So to that end, we came up with an intentional and strategic plan that aims to reach these various communities across our state. So we combined traditional and digital communications to achieve this, including utilizing digital and social media to reach broader audiences across California. We developed digital communications toolkits in both English and Spanish, which have been shared to our governing board and to advisory boards. So we're leaning on our members to help spread the word and would absolutely welcome your help with sharing out, but more on that in a bit. We've also initiated a targeted campaign via printed informational flyers posted in local public spaces. So we sent physical copies of these flyers in both English and Spanish to local county offices of education, colleges, organizations, and tribal communities, specifically in Northern California region, the Central Valley, and Eastern Sierras. We've also asked our partners to post in their local communities, which include both urban and rural regions. So just a little bit ago, Mary Kate provided the analysis of who would be terming out. I mean, those are just numbers to help you understand what types of members are terming out. But I just want to, mention that we're not losing sight of the human-centered lens, and intentionally we're intentionally approaching this. So if you represent your community's interest and see the positive impact you may have on it by having a seat at the table, we urge you to apply and make a difference. We want to make sure that your community's voices are heard and are reflected in this data system. So to wrap up, we welcome you all to promote this opportunity within your own region and network. If there are other spaces that you see are missing from the initial outreach plan, regions that we missed, please help us spread the word. But if you're interested in printing out the flyers and posting in your local public spaces, we just dropped a link of the PDF in the chat. This PDF includes both English and Spanish flyers. And also, if you'd like to further promote within your network online, we encourage you to utilize our media toolkit. A link to that has just been dropped in the chat as well. And please post through your social media channels. That concludes our outreach overview. I'll pass it back to Shannon to facilitate the Q&A and close us out for the day.
All right, it's a little hard to find the mute button. Thank you all for joining us again. Now is the opportunity for you to ask your questions. Just wanted to say this out loud. This is the first time that we've had a community conversation on the advisory board application process, but this is the second time that we've done this as an office together. And so we really want to make sure that we are being as transparent and open about the process as we can be, and make sure that you have the information that you need, the tools that you need to really have a strong application. So last year we got a lot of emails from folks asking about the status of their application or what they could be doing to make sure that they were a strong applicant. And we really wanted to make sure that we were sharing this information to everyone broadly in an open forum. And so I encourage you to ask any questions that you may have today that may be useful to you or maybe other folks on this line online who are joining and interested in applying. So I'm not seeing, I do see now one in the Q&A, and it says, Darrell says, I work for a community organization that focuses on college and career access for underrepresented students in the Inland Empire. I also sit on coalitions that focus on advocacy and research. So based on that, would I be considered to be affiliated with research, advocacy, regional, and student if I work with students? I'm going to look to Mary Kate to answer that, but I'm going to say yes. As we said, we talked about self-selection, making sure that people know exactly what you're doing. And so I think the more that you can apply or self-select, the better. But Mary Kate, any additional thoughts around that?
Yeah. So yes, going back to this is, I don't want to tell you how to self-identify. I'm trying to stay away from that. But yes, it would be helpful if you did, if you feel like your work is rooted in research or in advocacy, selecting one of those boxes. You could select both. You could also select regional. The student box is really if you were a student. So if you were, in getting your master's, your PhD, there's also a follow-up question there that says where you're at in your educational journey. So if you were an undergrad, it would be highlighting, where you're at in that versus if you work with students. So just clarity on that question and a little bit of definition there.
Helpful?
Thank you. Yes, super helpful. And thank you for the clarification on the students. Students are really for people who are currently in school or on their educational journey. So thank you for that clarification. There are also some additional components of this question, so I'll read it out loud. How many letters of support are needed, and ideally, who should they come from? So first, no letters of support are required for any application. You don't have to submit a letter of support to be considered for this. I just want to say that out loud. These are really just to add color to your application. A lot of people have a lot of folks in their communities who want to back them and support them in any way that they can. And so this is just a nice way to complement that, to share a more richer picture of who you are beyond your application. And so I just wanted to say that out loud. And ideally, who should they come from? People who know you, people who worked with you, people who can vouch for you. If your mom really wants to write a nice letter of support, she's encouraged to do so. But ultimately, you can reach out to your former colleagues. If you have students who would be good to share what you've done with them, for them, feel free to include them. We don't limit the number of letters of support that we receive from any individual, and we provide, as Mary Kate says, as real-time information as we can to our advisory board selection committee so that they know the folks who are applying. So just want to say that it is a nice compliment, definitely not a requirement, and it can come from anybody who knows you well and can speak to your character and your experience. So just want to say that. And the last thing is, are you looking for high school? Or if so, what grade or college students? And I believe at this point, Mary Kate, we are really looking for college students. Is that correct? There are some implications that come with younger folks, and so we were thinking through those possibilities. So right now it is looking more so at college students, but we are open to any and all as we think about this process. We want to make sure that these are the people that are really implicated in this work, have their voices heard, and so really appreciate that question. All right, and then from Ian, appreciate everyone's time today, really helpful information. How do you define the applicant categories? Are there definitions posted on the website? How do you define community organization, practitioner, etc.? Mary Kate, you've answered this one before, so I'd be happy for you to take this lead, and I'm going to click it so everybody can see this question.
Sure. So practitioner is actually it's like an overall, we again are trying not to get into the business of defining other folks. So there are not definitions, and that was kind of an intentional decision made on behalf of the committee and the office. But practitioner is broken down into like sub boxes. So if it is with a certain focus in community college work or CSU work or UC work, there's a multitude of options there, and I am not representing all of them by any stretch of the imagination. But it's kind of like a sub box. So you would double click to. There's also one at the bottom, other. So should nothing at the top speak to you, you could always do other and then self-define. If that's helpful.
Great, thank you so much. All right, Carolyn says, for the self-identification question, should we focus on current roles only or all roles for which we have experience?
I would say current.
Great. If they have other information, though, that would be something that they can share in the open-ended section. So make sure that you include that there.
Right. 100%. Amplify that in the subsequent questions, but use the question 8 in terms of what your current reality life looks like.
Perfect. So I'm not seeing any more questions in the Q&A or in the chat. I'll give folks just a few more moments if they've come to your mind. We'll answer them here in real time. All right. Well, thank you all. We're going to close today's Q&A, but if you have any questions or have additional follow-up and want to get in touch with us, you can email us at info@c2c.ca.gov. This is an email inbox. I say this all the time. It's monitored by a human, the folks that you're looking at right now on the screen. And so we will make sure that we are following up appropriately with you. Again, applications close May 17th. So if you have any follow-up or just want clarification on anything as you're going through your application process, we encourage you to drop us a line. We'd be happy to reach out to you. And otherwise, just want to flag that the c2c.ca.gov website /get involved. Community Conversations is on that page. The application is linked there as well. And there's just a wealth of ways that you can stay connected to C2C on this journey. But we just really appreciate you spending the time with us today. I hope this was an informational session, a helpful session to you all. And we really look forward to seeing your applications and wish you all the best of luck. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. And thank you for joining us on your lunch hour. Have a good rest of your day.